So I want to start off with your new partnership with Johnnie Walker. Can you tell me a bit about what went into it?
Yes, I think the initiative to want to like help artists with their first, and when I say first, I just mean like the beginnings of their careers, the beginnings of their ideas, the beginnings of like what they want to do for themselves. I think that having access to resources is something that a lot of people take for granted, and it's not something that used to exist decades ago. So now that we have like all of this information and all of the support, coming from different angles, I think teaming up with Johnny Walker was dope because we got to celebrate each other. We got to celebrate some new up and coming artists, and I got to be back in New York and perform for the first time in like a few years since the pandemic.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know what? Just last month, you released a cover of Most Def's Umi Says for Apple Music's Freedom Songs 2022. I loved it.
Mhm. Thank you.
What song in particular means to you and why you chose it?
My manager Justice sent me Umi Says, and it was his idea to cover it at first. And obviously, it's a classic song. So immediately when he brought up the idea, I was kind of like, we'll see how it goes. We'll try it out. And then we ended up having a ball making it. We reproduced everything from the bottom up, like every instrument that you hear on there was all done by two people. And Forward Slash was the one who helped like put it all together. And yeah, it was dope to be able to do that for Juneteenth and with Apple Music and to just give people my take on something that we all love.
And you know what? Speaking of justice, LVRN is truly killing the game right now. I have to give you guys your props. I love
Thanks.
what you guys are doing over there. Summer Walker, West
Yeah,
Side Boogie, you guys are killing it. And
thanks.
the one thing about LVRN that I love is that everything feels very authentic. How are you
Mhm.
guys achieving that in this day and age when authenticity is kind of hard to find?
Um, hmm. I really feel like it's second or first nature to just be yourself and like whatever comes from that, like just be true to you. I do what like serves me and I follow like what I care about and that's all that I could ever really do. I think that they know that they have to manage a lot of different like people and personalities and creatives. So the best thing that you can do in that situation is really just like let go and allow people to figure things out for themselves sometimes. I think that's what makes us authentic is really just the freedom for black to be black, for even Justice the manager to be Justice the manager. Like they're the dynamic
Right.
is so different, but we accept each other and we promote each other.
That's amazing. I love it. And you know what? Speaking of LVRN, you and the young artist Eli Derby just released a song together. What was it
Mhm.
like working with Eli? Did you kind of see a younger version of yourself in him?
I'm not even a younger version of myself, really just a little brother. The first time I met Eli, that was the dynamic. So when it was time to work together, I think he kind of not he didn't like shyly ask, but I could
Mhm.
feel the energy of just like, like almost like if you want to or if you vibing with
Right,
it.
right.
But I immediately was excited when I heard it and I immediately was ready to do the verse. And it was one of those verses that just kind of like flew out of me. So yeah, I love working with Eli. I love working with younger artists and newer artists in general. Um, I know that when I was younger, I was kind of like looking at all my favorite artists and thinking that they were so like unattainable or so unreachable. But I like to put myself in the forefront so people can have access to me. And that's also like why I teamed up with Johnny Walker too, because they were doing the same exact thing, is putting yourself at the forefront so that younger people can have access to you and you can help them with exposure, you can help them with funding, you can help them with any kind of support that they need.
Yes, I saw the same initiative there, which is why I wanted to ask. But I
Mhm.
also kind of want to circle back to authenticity, where we were talking about earlier. Because, excuse me, I'm so sorry about that.
It's all
We're
good.
coming up on 4 years since East Atlanta Love Letter. Can you
Mhm.
talk to me a bit about your headspace and the process you were in when you were creating that album? It carried a sense of authenticity that, like I said earlier, I think a lot of music is missing nowadays.
Yeah, I honestly feel like my last two albums have like been really, really personal updates to like where I was in my life and what I was dealing with, how I felt, and like what I wanted to like get through and get past and grow from. So that album, like the first album, was more of like an emotional experience than anything. Like the songs came as a result of what I was living. And East Atlanta Love Letter, I just remember um being unsure of where I was in my life in general because so much was going on and so much was happening. And that unsureness almost made me unsure when I was recording. So I reached a point where I was like halfway done, but I was just kind of like hovering. And then I just had like a few talks with myself, a few talks with the people around me, almost like family therapy, like before I had real therapy this go around.
Yeah.
And after that, it gave me the push I needed to really finish the album. And I made some of my favorite songs like towards the end. I think I've done that for East Atlanta Love Letter and for Free Black. Pretty Little Fears came towards the end.
Yeah.
Uh, East Atlanta Love Letter, the song and the title track came towards the end. So I was in a state of really trying to figure out, like how I wanted to grow next, like since everything had happened for me. And I think that that is what I just like tried to paint the picture of on that album.
With it being 4 years since East Atlanta Love Letter coming up in September, does that
Mhm.
mean that new music is on the way by any
Oh yeah,
chance?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I'm having like the best last couple of weeks when it comes to like just creatively. I have finally like got over this little personal hump that I had, and I am starting to like see things form, and my ideas are starting to like click together. So we should be done soon. And as soon as we're done, the plan will be to get it out ASAP. So yeah, I know 4 years is it's a good minute.
4 years, but it's aging well. It's aging well.
Yeah,
And you
that's
know
the
what?
good thing too.
Yes, yes. And I kind of want to ask you, what does your growth as an artist looks like from that 4 year period from 2018 to 2022 with your new project? What does your growth look like?
I just honestly don't want to do the same thing twice. I don't want to do the same thing three times. Like I am trying to figure out a way to communicate, where I am now, which is not necessarily like a place of turmoil or stress or depression or, like anything. I'm still dealing with real life feelings and situations, but I don't want to almost like romanticize this energy or this aura of just like the moody, down, sad, artist when
Yeah.
those were just like actual things that I was experiencing. Now that I'm not experiencing that as much or as extreme, I want to talk more about like what makes me happy and what I feel other people can use to like just feel better in their day. I want this album to honestly just feel better.
Are there any artists you've yet to check off of your dream collaborator list that may showcase on the album?
Um, as of right now, I have a couple of collabs like in the on the tuck, but I do feel like it hasn't been planned. There's nobody specifically in mind, but I do feel like we're gonna grab one of those, like one of those moments, almost like the Cole verse on Pretty Little Fears. That wasn't planned. That was the album was almost done, and I played him Pretty Little Fears, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that one right there."
I get it. So like this interview for me, one of those dream collaborators. I like it.
Hmm.
So lastly, my last question for you. I
Hmm.
want you to kind of put yourself in your shoes, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. If you could go back to when you were first starting, what's the advice that you would give yourself back then?
The advice that I would give myself back then, I would probably give myself a couple pointers. Honestly, for me personally, I would tell myself to continue doing exactly what I was doing and not to like feel any discouragement or feel like I'm, like it's a waste of time or a waste of energy or I need a backup plan of any sort. Like just literally stick to what you're doing. That's the
Mhm.
only advice I could have given myself. I wasn't, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. But as far as everybody else, I would tell them to really like utilize what we have in front of us. I think that is really dope to be able to have brands out there that will just like even present you the opportunity to win a grant, to have money, to have access to do cool shit. Like it's not something that we should just like skim over or act like, oh, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. It's like go for it. It's right there. If I had the opportunity to do something like this when I was in high school or college or whenever, I would have jumped on it, but I didn't really. So I ended
Right.
up, having a job selling hot wings for a second.
Right. 6 piece hot, right? 6 piece
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, yeah. But no, take advantage of like what you see around you. You literally have the internet, at your fingertips. And if it's there, there's really no excuse. Just go for it. Try it.
It's amazing. Well, man, that's all I've got for you today.
Thank you,
Truly,
man.
it was a pleasure sitting down with you. I hope that we can meet again.